Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, I wanted to go over what exactly is enabling Holy Paladins to be so crazy as it currently stands in PvP, go over their strengths, and also go over some potential options to try and deal with them. So if you're interested in learning how to beat a Holy Paladin, I'll also be going over potential weaknesses, although it's pretty limited. I'll be fair. That's why Holy Paladins are so great. I think the most important thing to really first take a look at are some of their talents specifically that are making them so powerful. Some of them may be underrated. I'm going to be going over this just in order that they're seen, and I'll try and note like which ones are actually the most outstanding or the egregious here. But the first talent you're going to notice is Saved by the Light, which is returned. This is previously in Warlords of Draenor. When an ally with your Beacon of Light is damaged below 30% health, they will then absorb a significant amount of damage, and this is on a reasonably short cooldown, 1 minute. Another thing that is enabling Saved by the Light, now you would assume then the counterplay to this is to attack the target that doesn't have Beacon of Light when you crowd control the Paladin. That would be one way to play around this. However, due to another talent down at the bottom row, Beacon of Faith, this allows you to have Beacon on 2 targets. Now you really only have one option to attack. Swapping around that is a lot more cumbersome and a lot more difficult. And by allowing the Holy Paladin to have Beacon of Faith and have 2 beacons, it really makes the Paladin a great, not AoE healer in the sense of a raid or a dungeon and healing multiple party members, but in 3v3 where there's really only one target, maybe 2 targets taking damage, this allows you to heal that entire unit as a cluster. And the synergy of these 2 talents is amazing because one of the main weaknesses of the Paladin is that if they're crowd controlled, they're not outputting any healing, really, aside from maybe a Bestow Faith, which does enable a slight strength to their normal weakness, right? After a certain amount of time, it explodes for healing. So they could time some healing with that, not a huge amount, and obviously not game-breaking. I'm not going to be talking about Bestow Faith for why I think Holy Paladins are so nuts, but specifically Saved by the Light, Beacon of Faith on 2 targets means that when the Paladin is crowd-controlled, 2 targets will get that shield. It's an incredibly low cooldown in PvP, and then enabling them to AoE heal when they're otherwise normally weak to AoE healing. This allows them to heal 3 targets. And the main heal that they're going to be utilizing to heal 3 targets is, as Kyrian, is Divine Toll, which is also a 1 minute cooldown, which is very low in PvP. It allows you to just Holy Shock 5 times, and it's basically guaranteed to heal your whole team to full. It's likely to grant you Infusion of Light because you're casting so many Holy Shocks. And once you've generated all of that holy power, we're then moving into the next talent, Awakening. You can then cast Word of Glory. And Word of Glory will have a 15% chance to activate Avenging Wrath. And while Avenging Wrath is up, your Holy Shocks are going to be doing a lot of healing, granting you further infusions of light. You're going to be generating holy power more readily. And as you generate more holy power, you can spend the holy power to increase the chances of proccing Awakening and also synergizing with Divine Purpose, which then makes holy power abilities a chance to cast again. Basically, you can Word of Glory and then make a Word of Glory free, and both those Word of Glories can have a chance to activate Awakening. So normally the playstyle for the Paladin to counter the Paladin is to play around their cooldowns. They've activated Avenging Wrath and you've crowd controlled, you've ran away, you've avoided the fight, and then engage on them after their cooldowns are down and find those openings. Or previously overwhelm multiple targets against a Paladin, as they're most noted for their single target burst healing. These talents are not allowing those opportunities anymore. Although it is true with Awakening and Divine Purpose, you could get incredibly lucky as a Holy Paladin, and you will feel dramatically weaker than a Paladin who is getting lucky with their Divine Purpose and their Awakening procs, most certainly. But speaking on the top end of the good RNG, you're going to be feeling like you have wings up the entire game, which means that there's really no openings for an opponent to attack you. And with Beacon of Faith on multiple targets, you'll be able to heal multiple targets very easily. This is why Paladin's throughput is so over the top. Now, aside from their talents, this is the synergies of their talents. Going into their base abilities of their kit, most of their healing is going to be instant cast. And when it isn't instant cast through Holy Shock, Word of Glory, and Bestow Faith, they will be accessing an honor talent called Divine Favor, which recently received a very minuscule nerf that maybe impacted the difference of choosing between Holy Light and Flash of Light. Likely their thoughts there were if force the Paladin to use Flash of Light, they'll run out of mana faster. But it's still really not the case. But still, you could say that the other counterplay to the Paladin would be to interrupt them, right? Because Paladins normally are these big heals that they have to cast. But with Divine Favor, they can avoid being interrupted. Obviously, the counterplay could be purging this and interrupting that, and there is outplay value there. But generally speaking, their instant cast and their burst healing is so prevalent, and due to the fact that they have their cooldowns up theoretically almost all of the time, they never have to really open up their school to being interrupted. And also synergizing in with things like off healing, right, from hybrids, and defense and healing from other classes. This is talking about the synergies of the Paladin paired up with that, is that the Paladins can generally sit extended chains, rely on the damage dealer's endurance conduits or defensive healing mechanisms to sustain them during the moments where they don't have their instant cast healing, and then just wait and then instantly heal their team to full and kind of repeat the process, never really opening any opportunities for opponents that they would otherwise have in the past because of all of these heavy synergies. There are obviously some other straightforward reasons why Paladin is powerful. Things like Ultimate Sacrifice, allowing you to immediately stop all damage on another target, is really good when you're in this burst damage meta and classes can kill a target rapidly. So this is obviously straightforward, making them powerful. And I think that is, as the niche of Paladin, is fine, and there are ways to go around this. You can swap to the Paladin on the redirected sacrifice damage, and I don't think that this is contributing necessarily to why Holy Paladin is so overbearingly popular or overbearingly played at the moment. I think that this fits into the niche of the Paladin well. What I don't think fits into the niche well is being able to AoE heal at all times, have a safety net to rely on, and having your cooldowns up all of the time through RNG talents like Awakening and Divine Purpose. And this is why Paladin actually feels better than it did in Battle for Azeroth, now that we've had time to get to this talent build, figure this out. And there were some nerfs to other healers. I think moving into Shadowlands, a lot of people thought Holy Paladin was going to be weak. It was going to be the worst healer. Even myself, I said that in previous tier lists. But now having it fully fleshed out and the Covenant's fully tested and talent builds seen, now we're seeing why it's so prevalent, right? I mean, some other straightforward reasons why it's powerful is getting 2 Blessing and Protections, which completely immunes physical damage for a moment in time. But again, I think that is okay and acceptable for the Paladin to be that strength. The weakness of that should be then the opportunities in between or switching targets. But those weaknesses are just not there currently because of the talents. Now, there are other things that I think are contributing, like legendary powers. Reign of Ancient Kings is a protection legendary. Let's see if we can find it here really quickly. When you drop below 20% health, you become infused with the Guardian of Ancient Kings for 4 seconds. This cannot occur for 45 seconds. Again, you can see a very low cooldown, 45 seconds, 1 minute, 1 minute on Divine Toll. These are very low, high impact cooldowns. I mean, they have the throughput of a 3-minute cooldown on a minute or a sub-minute cooldown, which just enables the Paladin to get to that next window to top themselves immediately, get to that next window to top themselves immediately, rely on Ignore Pain on warriors, rely on Triune Ward barriers on mages, rely on Frenzied Regen on druids. These are coming from endurance conduits, enhancing those abilities as well. It is, I think, a little bit just the Holy Paladin. I think, again, talking about these making the weakness that they've normally had in the past no longer relevant, I think is a big deal for Paladin. But there are other things enabling, and they synergize so well with the Paladin. And then all of this, the Paladin brings all of their strengths with no weakness, and that's why we see them be so prevalent. Now, obviously, you can do as I've said to try and counter Paladins, play around their cooldowns when they don't have Avenging Wrath, push in for damage, crowd control them to prevent them from healing. These are all obviously great strategies, and these are the strategies that are executed on at the highest level to find victory. But you may have difficulty ultimately netting kills because of all of these talents that are contributing to massive synergies within the own kit of the Paladin, as well as synergies with other classes. Now, as far as solutions to this, right, like, I don't think Paladin should be in a place where it's just the worst healer. It's never played, but it is very obvious that At the moment, it has no significant weakness, whereas other healers do. Resto Druids are susceptible to being purged and need to drink frequently. Mistweavers are susceptible to high burst damage and dying in stuns. Disc Priests are susceptible to running out of mana. Holy Priests are susceptible to running out of mana. It's just that Resto Shamans are susceptible to AoE damage and falling back from pressure or even getting swapped to often. But right now, Paladins are incredibly efficient because also healing into a beacon target will allow your mana regeneration to retain for some time. They don't have any sort of active mitigation like Innervate or Water Shield to maintain. It's just kind of baked into their normal rotation. So maybe having seen something like Divine Plea come back to Holy Paladin would have been nice, which was reducing their healing to give them some mana regeneration for some time. There was a lot of ability and play around that ability that I've enjoyed in the past, as opposed to this passive mana regeneration through Beacon of Faith. This is something that I think is unlikely to change, but I just wanted to talk about. But when we look at creating weaknesses, what could ultimately done, because you can see that it's a big bundle, it's a nest, it's a spider's web of stuff that's just strung together with other stuff that's causing it to be so powerful. And you have to think of Holy Paladin in the game as a whole, right? Like, my solution would be to remove Beacon of Faith as a talent. Paladins have to manage their beacon only on one target, and people can play around what's the save by the light target. And their healing efficiency will be less if they have to spend a global cooldown on switching their Beacon of Faith, and much like a Shaman's Earth Shield, rather than having it actively on multiple targets and allowing them to be an amazing AoE healer. I also didn't talk about another talent, which is Divine Vision, providing shadow resistance, aura, and reducing all dot damage. So again, a weakness that Paladin had in the past where AoE multi-target damage would overwhelm them, they can talent into this. My simple solution to this would be to make Shadow Resistance Aura an aura, so you have to choose. I think having Concentration Aura, Interrupt Reduction, and Shadow Resistance Aura at the same time, Paladins in the past never had two auras. They could never use two auras at the same time. That's a little bit of an inconsistency, although auras have just returned to the game. But again, that would be a slight alteration that I would make, so that then interrupting the Paladin is still an option if they're choosing Shadow Resistance Aura to reduce the damage of all of the AoE pressure. But getting two, it seems a little bit too much for Holy Paladin. So it's a very difficult thing to solve, right? Because it's so many different talents working together to create this just impenetrable wall, really, of cooldowns. You really only see Paladins struggle with the highest amount of burst situations where maybe they underreact or they don't bubble. That's often a time where we see Paladins dying. But this is ultimately why we're seeing Paladin so much. It's this RNG synergy, beacon on two targets, saved by the light, not needing to be played around because it's on two targets, passive damage mitigation, amazing cooldown trading, almost entirely instant cast healing, and then all of the healing on DPS specs, extending those damage dealers' lifespans out long enough for the Paladin to get to their big instant heal that goes into more instant heals that goes into proccing more instant heals, and they just string into each other, buying them time to get to their powerful cooldowns. And something else that's just kind of low-key, this is for the game as a whole, is the Battle Master trinket. This is a trinket that you can activate when you're silenced. It just grants you a big boost of health. If you're interrupted, you can press it. If you're silenced, you can press it. So again, in a situation where Paladin may otherwise be weak, it gives them an out. And Battlemaster is actually contributing a lot to very long games. I think that Battlemaster, amongst pretty much all classes, maybe mages and balanced druids, could get around with not wearing this, and potentially warriors. But for the most part, you're not going to go wrong with the Battlemaster because of its 2-minute cooldown trading so effectively with a lot of other powerful cooldowns to just grant you a big boost of health, and also because of its stat budget, granting you your main stat. A lot of other trinkets are giving you crit, and I think that's to disincentivize you on using an on-use burst trinket to add to your burst damage. But incentivizing this trinket that is just prolonging matches by quite a large degree. I think this is a huge contributor to any sort of long games that we're seeing in tournaments. I know that might be counterintuitive to what we're seeing on live realms, but Battlemaster is definitely not something to be underrated. Also, another small note is that Divine Toll is technically an arcane spell, so all Kyrian abilities are arcane. If you're interrupted on your heal, you can still cast Divine Toll, even though Divine Toll is casting Holy Shock, It's not really an arcane spell. I don't know if they have that for consistency. Curing abilities are arcane, but again, another time where you could outplay the paladin by interrupting them, they get another out. So I feel like you can see where I'm going with this. There's no weakness. It's all strength. I think that there needs to be a weakness made. To me, historically, again, the weaknesses for Paladin was area of effect healing and crowd control. Those are now actually their strengths, which means then they're also bringing in their powerful cooldowns, and there are RNG talents that further enable those powerful cooldowns. This is why we see so much Paladin. This is why I would recommend Paladin as the best healer for anybody that's getting into PvP, because it's also going to be super new player friendly, because you can avoid all the situations that are stressful for the other healers. Don't worry about your mana, all instant cast healing, rely on all these automatic safety nets to save you, powerful instant cast healing. You're gonna be doing pretty well, I think, on a Holy Paladin, and I've just kind of started gearing mine up, and I just wanted to talk about it. So thank you very much for watching the video here. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave it with a thumbs up if you did. Leave your comments down below with what you think of the current healers, or what you think is a good solution as well for this, because again, I think it's a spider web of a bunch of different things working together that's contributing to this, and I'm not sure if there is a simple or straightforward solution other than outright removing some of the talents that are otherwise enabling Paladin to have no significant weakness. And I don't think this is something that's just a meta adaptation, but I'm not going to ramble anymore. If you like this video, check out some of my other ones. I'll have them linked above. Other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.